Welcome to Calculated Survival, where we plan to survive and refuse to die. I'm Eric from Calculated Survival, and I lived in the Arctic for a few years, and I was a graduate of the Arctic Survival School. So as you look around here today, it looks pretty cold. It is about 10 degrees out. The running water is even freezing. So I want to teach you today how to recognize, treat, and avoid hypothermia. Respect Mother Nature, but understand that she's a frigid cold bitch. All right, so what is hypothermia? Hypothermia is when your body is losing more heat than it can gain. And it starts happening when your body temperature reaches about 95 degrees. You could start feeling hypothermia on the outside when it's about 50 degrees or lower. Obviously, if you're submerged in water, that's going to be a different type of hypothermia. We're not talking about that today. We're talking about just being outside, maybe being wet or snowing, but not actually immersing yourself in the river. Who gets affected easily? We all get affected by hypothermia, but the young, the old, people that are sick and also intoxicated will be the first to get hypothermia. Now we're going to teach you how to recognize hypothermia. When you start to shiver, that is your body telling you that it's trying to keep itself warm. Confusion, slurred speech, clumsiness, and memory loss are all indicators of hypothermia. As you can tell, some are easier to see in other people than it is in yourself. So if you think that you're becoming hypothermic, you need to start treating right away before you get too far into your hypothermic. How do you treat hypothermia? The first thing I want you to do is assess the person and the situation, regardless if it's another person or yourself. And when I say assess the person and the situation, what I'm saying is, if you feel like you're going hypothermic and maybe you can get to a warm place in 35 to 40 minutes or to a car or to a house, then even though you're entering the stages of hypothermia, what you should do is try to keep going to make it to that warm place so that you can slowly warm yourself. Now, if you can't because you're either lost or you might not be able to get to that place for 4 or 5 hours, then you need to reassess. What is causing the hypothermia? Is it wet clothes? Is it snowing out or a cold, miserable rain? Or is it the wind? Because if any of those are causing the hypothermia and you're too far away from a place to get warmer, then you need to go ahead and figure out how to get either shelter or fire. So shelter, if it's so windy or if it's the elements are causing this problem, then you want to build a shelter or have a shelter if you have an emergency shelter with you. And you want to go ahead and protect yourself from that element that's causing the hypothermia. If you can start a fire, even better, because then you can warm those areas and you can dry those clothes. Now, a lot of people are going to ask, well, what if I don't have those? Well, you can always protect yourself from the wind somehow. And if you're with somebody, then what I want you to do is go ahead and remove that wet clothes that are near their skin. And what you want to do is remove all your clothes and you want to get together and your body heat can warm up another person and use those dry clothes to go ahead and kind of make a modified sleeping bag. The one thing with hypothermia, when somebody is hypothermic and you're trying to warm them up slowly and warm them up gradually. So if for some reason you do get back to a residence, do not make them a hot bath and put them in there because you do not want to warm up a hypothermic person too quickly. You warm them up slowly and gently. Also remember, if you don't have the right tools and you're stuck out there, it's going to become exponentially harder to treat for hypothermia. Remember, you can get a survival kit, a cold weather survival kit. It's only going to be the size of a brick. You can take that in your backpack. You can take that anywhere with you. Inside that will be a Mylar that can keep you warm. Could be a poncho that can keep you dry, fire starter, and shelter building kits. The best way to avoid hypothermia is by planning. Get a map. Know the weather of what's going to be out there. And I don't just mean the weather for if you're going out for 2 hours. Know the weather for the next 24 to 48 hours, because if you get stuck, you want to know what you're in store for. Dress in layers. So usually you want to at least wear 4 layers. Your first layer is going to be a thin, non-absorbent, water-wicking layer. You want the water, if you're sweating, to get away from your skin. So you're not putting a heavy cotton or something that will absorb water next to your skin. Your last layer, your outer layer, which a lot of people might not wear, but make sure you carry, is the one that's going to protect you from the wind and from the water or the rain. So just have a poncho. A poncho doesn't take up much space, Make sure you have a poncho in there, even if you never have to put it on. But if you need it, you want it. Wear gloves, wear a hat, because these are the things with your extremities, they get cold. So if I'm walking and I get warm and I start to sweat, I'm going to remove my gloves, I'm going to remove my hat. It's like built-in air conditioning. Because the one thing you don't want to do while you're moving is you don't want to sweat. Make sure you have shelter building tools and fire building tools. And when I say that, also know how to use them. So if you're going to have a shelter, you can have emergency tents, which only takes up this big of a thing, big of a space. You can go ahead onto our website and you can see it because we have one for sale. It could save your life or somebody else around you. Also, if you have a fire starter, not just a lighter, know how to make fire. And don't learn it when you're in an emergency situation. Have fun with it. When you're back home, take the fire starting and learn how to make a fire. So in order to protect you and your team or your friends from hypothermia, you want the right tools and the right training. If you don't have them and you're going out hiking, why don't you make sure you friend somebody that has those tools and that can help you. Stay tuned for more cold weather training that we're going to be doing on calculated survival. We're going to be doing one on frostbite and other cold weather survival tactics. So subscribe and stay tuned to our YouTube channel. Thank you.